Good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning.
So I have a very simple question. Do you want to live to be 250 years old? By a show of hands, how many would like to live to be 250 years old?
Sure.
Okay. Whoops. So much for my advance.
Give me a second here.
There we go. Okay. Is it even possible to live to be 250 years old? Well, Dr. Aubrey de Grey is a very controversial gerontologist working in the space that I work in, which is futurist. And Dr. de Grey says it's actually true that the first person who's going to live to be 1,000 years old has already been born. It is actually quite feasible that in the next 30 years, we will extend the human lifespan to 250 years old. And the reason for that are the advances that we're making in genetics and neuroscience. There are two major fronts that research is taking place. The first is preventative. This actually extends the human lifespan, and it covers treatments such as hormonal treatments, human growth factor, stem cell research, and recently how to actually reverse or slow down how our DNA ages in an area of research called telomerase, which is a fraying aspect of our DNA. So this is actually possible that we might live to be 250 years old. The second area is regenerative. And these are the fronts of research that are things like 3D organ printing. So replacement of our liver, replacement of our kidney, printing out new hip joints. This is the area that I would contend gives us the best opportunity for increased quality of life. It's not just quantity of years, but quality of life that we should be seeking. But next, we need to ask ourselves, is it ethical? Do we really want to live to be 250 years old? So in fact, the people that are pursuing this increased lifespan are the epitome of the haves. It's the male white tech billionaires that are putting lots and lots of money into increasing our lifespan. Founders of Google, like Sergey Brin, Larry Ellison with Oracle, are putting millions, if not billions, of dollars into this space. So one of the questions we need to ask is, should we be spending these millions on increasing our lifespan for the haves, or would those millions be better spent giving billions of people who have yet to have clean water and sanitation a normal lifespan? And we need to ask, is it even meaningful to live to be 250 years old? What are we going to do with all those extra years? For most of us, the two areas of our life that drive our happiness are our work life and our relationships. In our work life, what do you do with an extra 100 years of work productivity? As this quote demonstrates, are you just going to be miserable for another 50 years in a job that you hate? And in relationships, are we really going to improve the quality of our life? Are you going to be a better, more empathetic, more generous person just because you have an additional 50 or 75 or 100 years? So what is going to make that extra lifespan meaningful for you? As a futurist, I ask questions about what are the actual implications of living to be 250 years. So one of the frameworks that I work in is what we call STEEP: social, political, economic, environment, and technology. And in each of those aspects, we ask questions about, well, what is the positive best case scenario? What's the likely case scenario? And ultimately, what could be the worst case scenario? So if we just take economic, for example, I think there are some people in here that are financial planners and work in wealth and inheritance, right? So if you're going to work for 100 years, What does that mean for Social Security? What does that mean for your retirement planning? What does that mean in terms of your total assets that you need to build up to actually live a life for 250 years? So there's some proposals that things like universal basic income are going to have to come into play. You're going to have to create a safety net that people will actually be able to have the material goods that they need for that length of time. How does that change insurance? What does that do to risk? Does risk become based on lifespan, or does risk become based primarily on the activities that you undertake during that lifespan? If you think about the social aspects, back to that relationship part of your life, what does this mean in terms of when do you actually reach puberty? When do you create family units? How do you cover housing in terms of the generational units? Do you become housing shortage? So there's many, many different aspects of what it means to be 250 years old. Oops. So ultimately, even though my last slide didn't come up, perhaps what we need to do is ask, is it quality of life or quantity of life? And in fitting with the Thanksgiving season, I would say we need to be pursuing quality of life. Thank you.